You're kind of a suck up.
I am not.
I know.
All right.
I love you. I bought you breakfast.
So the other thing that we're working, very, very stringently on is the whole education formula that we have seen what's happened. Now, Griswold was a little bit more in a positive column as far as how towns were allocated funds this year, but there are many, many towns in the region that were just absolutely devastated by the new formula that has not been well defined by how they have.
Heather, you still there? I think we kind of lost you.
Oh, no. She's missing.
I'll call you back.
Nope, I got you. No, there you are again.
You're here.
Okay. Anyway, one thing I should tell you is that your representatives and senator are working really hard. Normally, senators have 3 committees. For me, I don't know whether they're just trying to bury me, but I'm on 6 committees. So I am vice chair of education, environment, higher ed, the chair of public health, and then I sit on appropriations. So I'm very, very busy. If anybody wants to come see me, I'm in Hartford 24/7.
Oh, my goodness. What days are you actually in session? What days is the Senate in session?
I'm there every day. There's special days that they call for session. We've only had a few of those at this point, but I am there every single day in Hartford, between committee meetings and refining bills and meeting with, different organizations that have, maybe interest in what the bills are going on. So it's a lot, and it's exciting, and there's a lot going on. We're just hoping that between Kevin and I and our reps in Eastern Connecticut, we can actually push the needle in the right direction.
Very excited about some of the committees you're on, especially the public health. And, one of the things my administrator, Cindy Disco, told me that when you go there and you talk to her about the ungodly mountains of unnecessary paperwork that we're forced to do by the public health department, it takes us away from the bedside, really, and about the, massive, massive amount of regulation garbage that we have to muddle through to give good care. And we're the most heavily regulated industry in this country. And I find that hard to believe when you've got nuclear power plants that don't have as much regulation. And care suffers. Care suffers when we have to deal with unfunded mandates, and we deal with the issues that surround the new layers of requirements. I know on a national level, that we got the mega rule, which is the 786 pages of unfunded federal mandates. It's just absolutely phenomenal. So anything that we can do in the state of Connecticut to help the healthcare industry is going to make a dramatic difference for us.
Absolutely. And, luckily I have a little bit of a background there, so I'm able to say, wow, that sounds like something that's not going to work. And there is a bill in right now. It's something that I'm not in favor of, that the Public Health Department has put in, which basically would affect your industry, requiring that if there is any infraction or any, discrepancy or finding, that the administrator would be held personally liable for that.
That's frightening.
Which I think is outrageous.
And it's even scarier if you are an administrator owner, and it's a small business. It is going to force people to rethink their strategy in terms of employment. People are going to stop doing this.
It's a huge liability.
Right. Or they're going to have to demand, the other administrators would have to demand an ungodly amount of money to be able to do it, because, one of the things I brought up was, okay, so if you have a medical director that directs an order, doesn't go the way that it's supposed to go, that the now administrator would be held liable, and you could have a non-clinician administrator who, doesn't know. They said, yes, that is something that is supporting. But that's actually coming out of public health. I heard a lot of testimony about that last week.
And I think, probably, your husband as a physician can attest to this as well. Sometimes you do everything according to the plan of care. Everything is by the book. You have followed your policy and procedure, and there's still a bad outcome. You do. Right.
And that's something I think that we need to do a better job at, because there is this sort of explaining, people are sick, everyone dies. That's one thing that we all have in common. We will all die. And exactly what you said, a clinician can do everything right. The outcome is not what we want. That doesn't mean that the clinician is at fault that doesn't mean the nursing home or the hospital is at fault, but sometimes people die. And we have to, I guess, maybe have a better understanding of doctors and nurses and everyone in the healthcare industry. They're not perfect. They can't fix everything. They can make, your life better as best they can within the powers that they have, but there are certain things that are beyond their control. And I think we've lost that as far as healthcare. We just assume we have a pill or the doctor can fix this and that, and that's just not the case. So I think we have to have a little more of a dose of reality that sometimes things just do not go according to plan.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that somebody's necessarily at fault.
Yeah, on the regulation side, it is very much a mindset of punishment. Somebody will be punished for this. And we're not making widgets. There is not an exacting tolerance to the product that we put out. And, I can have, as an example, I can have 2 nurse assistants with a gait belt, help somebody, assist them to stand according to the plan of care, and that person's knees can still buckle and they can fall and break their hip, even though the plan of care was followed, the people were trained. Yep. And there is such a salivating mindset of punishment that it's painful. It's painful to work in this day in and day out. As a director of nursing for 21 years, you start to think, how many of these people have I been responsible for? Every action that the employee makes, every outcome that the patient has, and there have been thousands of people that I've had to be responsible for, and likewise my administrator for 21 years, and
it is staggering.
And we have a lovely nursing home, and it's miserable. But you've seen that with your exposure in healthcare, and
right,
it's what drives people away from it.
As far as nursing homes are concerned, most people that I've met in my years of working in the industry, if you work in that industry, you're a really special person, and everyone is there for, the right reasons. And I hate the whole idea of this. Everything is so punitive in nature. I think there needs to be a better understanding of exactly what you said. Every patient is different. There's no, we're not making widgets, and everybody has different comorbidities or issues that they're dealing with, and it has to be looked at on an individualized case. And just because, like you said, that person, we can do everything right, but the person still, falls or buckles, that nurse should not be punitively charged, in my opinion. We have to look at things differently. Because what happens is you scare people away from ever wanting to be a physician or a nurse or anything, because you're constantly under siege on some level.
And, it's really funny. My daughter Maureen just got her BSN, and she passed her licensure board 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations!
Thank you. Pretty proud mother, as you can imagine. And
I can imagine. That's quite impressive.
So, some of the old gals that I work with, the old school nurses. I was talking with them, and one of them said, "You are going to give her the weekend before you tell her how miserable the industry is, right?" So
I know. I've heard that from love physicians where they hear my daughter's friends going to med school, and they're like, maybe we should talk. You might want to go be an attorney or something else. I'm not sure
exactly.
You want to do that, so.
Absolutely. And I have that conversation with doctors all the time. I have a couple of physicians that I know that have said that they really wish they had chosen something different. And that's unfortunate.
And that's really sad, because I think that is a calling for nursing or to be a physician or anything in the healthcare industry. Really, you have to have that calling because you really genuinely want to be able to help and care for people. And I think the pendulum has swung so far that it's becoming, something that people are considering. And we're going to need nurses and physicians going forward. We have a shortage now, and it's only getting worse from what we can see.
And up here in this neck of the woods specifically, I believe we're still considered a federally underserved community for healthcare practitioners. So especially as you move up, towards the northeast corner, we're kind of a little rural, sort of blighted in terms of access to healthcare. So, you take a look at, some of the impact. I mean, we've gone back and forth. How many times has there been the open discussion about, what's going to happen with Day Kimball Hospital? There was talk about Wyndham Hospital, and it's kind of frightening when you think about it, that, it's just not even a viable industry sometimes up here in this area.
Right. Well, and one of the things that we struggle with, too, in public health is there has been there's a new certificate of need bill that the governor has come out with, making it more difficult, in my opinion, for smaller hospitals to merge with larger hospitals.
Right.
And one of the things that I think is important for people to understand is the smaller hospitals cannot survive on their own anymore because of the requirements by the Affordable Care Act in particular. Having to have a electronic medical record system that costs $30 million is not something that a small hospital can absorb. Therefore, between that and the way that we reimburse physicians, the larger hospitals are basically buying up practices because the practices are insolvent. They can't survive on their own. Same thing with the hospital. So, there's a fine line between, this sort of monopoly of larger hospitals buying up smaller institutions versus having no hospital at all. That's really scary for me.
Yeah, and on the, with the, typically of the federal government, with the rollout of the electronic medical record, it was so poorly executed. I take referrals from several different hospitals, each with its own system, each with a different login. Sometimes if I haven't logged in at Yale New Haven in a while, I'm waiting on the phone forever. I've got discharge planners yelling at me because I'm not reviewing patients for admission, and I'm on the phone with the IT guy trying to log in. And each system is different. None of them talk to one another. None of them are compatible with what we do in long-term care. So I don't know what we've accomplished. I don't know what we've
spent
done.
An awful lot of money on it. In Connecticut, it was $150 million for electronic medical records, and we still, like you said, can't speak to each other. Even the people that are using, like Epic, they have a difficult time because it's not giving you the data you want on the patient. You have to scroll screen after screen after screen to get to the right information. So I had a perfect plan, but nobody listened to me. I thought, the VA has a really good electronic medical record system. If instead of doing this Epic or McKesson, if the federal government had just allowed us, not us, but hospitals, to access that VA system, and we could make tweaks to it, we could have all talked to each other, and it wouldn't have cost nearly as much. But clearly that didn't happen. And not to get political, but look who the biggest donator to Obama's campaign is. It's the people that own Epic, just so everybody knows.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's why you're Heather the Heater, because you know this stuff. We're going to call you that from now on. You're just Heather the Heater.
What did you call me?
Heather the Heater. That's your new nickname. No. So, because
I said it in jest. Oh, by the way, hi, Heather. I'm still here.
I'm sorry.
No. You guys are good.
What do you want to talk about? We'll talk about whatever you'd like to talk about.
Oh, nothing. I just wanted to say that I just looked at your name real quick, and I'm thinking, man, this is a tough lady. Let's call her the Heater.
Yeah.
And I let it go, but she's.
I know. I love it. I think it's a strong woman. Love it. So and I'm going to throw this in too.